Hello, my friends. Today, the Russians in the Kursk region have already started building pontoon bridges across the same river. They are trying to evacuate their troops from the Glushkova district, which will soon be under the control of the Ukrainian forces, as most of the bridges have been nearly destroyed. A crossing has also been reported near the settlement of Glushkova. It appears that the Russians were able to build these bridges quickly and are using them instead of the damaged ones. It's unclear whether the Ukrainian forces destroyed these bridges or are allowing the Russians to withdraw their troops from the area. Additionally, Russian military correspondents are saying that the situation is bad along the Lvov-Rylsk highway. The Ukrainian forces are gaining fire control over this road and are using drones to target any Russians moving there. As a result, they are urging the evacuation of the civilians from these regions. However, a few days ago, the Russian war correspondents claimed that they had managed to stabilize the situation, dig in, and bring up reserves, stating they would begin liberating settlements. But as we can see, the initiative is still with the Ukrainian forces, even though there have been no new confirmed changes along the front line in the past 24 hours. In the Kharkiv direction, the Russians are continuing their shelling along the border, but no new offensive actions towards Liptsi and Gliboka have been reported. However, the fighting in Vovchansk continues unabated. The Russians haven't been able to advance even to the border barrier, and the front line has remained unchanged for several days. Now, let's move straight to the most challenging Pokrovsk direction. Here, the Russians continue to push forward, and overnight they managed to advance another 2 kilometers and 900 meters closer to Mykolaiivka. However, it's important to emphasize that the further they advance towards Mirnograd and Pokrovsk, the greater the likelihood that the Ukrainian forces could launch a counteroffensive and create a large encirclement, potentially leading to the destruction of a significant Russian military grouping. The Russians seem to be aware of this risk, which is why they are fighting on a wide front. It's evident that they haven't concentrated all their forces on breaking through to Mirnograd, but have instead decided to actively move towards Svatove to expand the territory they control and minimize the risk of this frontline section being cut off by Ukrainian forces. Also, fighting continues near the highway with ongoing assaults on Myrolubivka. The Russians have also managed to expand their controlled territory in several directions by a few hundred meters. The battles for Hrodivka are ongoing, with the Russians advancing further into the settlement each day. They have achieved some success in advancing a few hundred meters over the past day. Fighting also continues for Vozdvizhenka, as well as attempts to break through to Tarasivka, with battles reported near Kalinove. Additionally, the shelling of the frontline areas remains intense. In the Toretsk direction, the Russians are launching intense assaults on Nelepivka, and they are also trying to break through from Zalizne towards Toretsk. At the same time, attacks on Delivka continue with shelling along the front line. However, there have been no changes over the past 24 hours. In the Chasiv Yar direction, the Russians are attempting to capture Grigorivka and are once again trying to break through near Kalinivka. Additionally, they continue their efforts to cross the canal and establish positions in Chasiv Yar, while also engaging in battles near Klishchiivka. Somehow, they have managed to advance nearly 6 kilometers beyond the front line. If they succeed in securing this area, the situation for Chasiv Yar could deteriorate significantly. For now, the front line remains unchanged over the past day. In the Siversk direction, the Russians are assaulting Ivano-Darivka, but their overall activity has decreased. The Russians haven't made any gains, and no new assaults are taking place. In the Kreminna direction, battles continue for Nevsky and Terny, but the situation remains under the control of the Ukrainian forces. All attacks are being successfully repelled, and the front line remains unchanged. In the Svatove area, battles are ongoing for Stelmachivka, with the Russians attempting to break through the fields towards Lozova. Further south, fighting continues near Grekivka, and assaults on Makivka are still underway. The Russians are carrying out around 10 assaults daily, but they haven't achieved any success. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians are trying to build on their recent advances, assaulting Glushkivka and Kolesnikivka to reach the water barrier and cut off the Ukrainian forces grouping. The battles are ongoing, and we are waiting for the outcome. In the Kurakhove direction, Russian forces continue to suffer heavy losses in Krasnohorivka, despite being close to capturing the last few streets. The Ukrainian forces successfully repelled the advancing Russians. Battles are also ongoing near Paraskevivka and the village of Kostiantynivka, but the Russians haven't achieved any progress in these areas for a long time. In the Vuhledar direction, the Russians are conducting offensive operations on Vodiane and have launched new attempts to break through near Zolota Neva. The shelling continues along the entire front line, but the Russians have made no significant gains. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, there is a tense calm as the Russians tremble with fear, spreading rumors daily about an impending Ukrainian counteroffensive. However, it's still hard to say whether a new assault will be launched against the three heavily fortified defense lines. So, friends, what do you think? Is this even possible? In the Kherson direction, the Russians continue shelling their right bank and occasionally attempt assaults on Kozachye Lageri. Despite these efforts, they've made no progress and the front line remains unchanged. Meanwhile, Lavrov is complaining about the fact that the Ukrainian forces have entered the Kursk region.
Военную обстановку оценивает наше руководство Министерства обороны, докладывает регулярно по несколько раз в день президенту. А что касается внешнеполитической стороны дела, то на воре шапка сгорела давно уже. Потому что вот эта эволюция от «мы здесь ни при чем», нас никто не спрашивал, в последующем перешла во фразу «да, к нам обращались, мы не разрешили», но Залужный ослушался. Слушайте, это детский лепет. Всем прекрасно понятно, что никогда Зеленский не решился бы на это, а это, безусловно, Зеленского решение. Как он сейчас хвалится, что создает буферную зону, наносит ущерб российскому государству. Никогда бы он на это не решился, если бы ему не поручили Соединенные Штаты Америки. Так же, как Соединенные Штаты Америки, теперь уже ни у кого сомнений нет, стоят за взрывами северных потоков, которые взрывы оставили Европу без дешевого российского топлива и, соответственно, без устойчивой основы экономического развития. Так что здесь для нас картина предельно ясная. И как бы там они ни изворачивались, эта правда всем объективным, непредвзятым наблюдателям видна и известна.
As usual, everyone else is to blame, but the threats are noticeably absent. The Russians clearly have lost their nerve, and the so-called red lines no longer exist. Zelensky also commented on this.
Ще кілька місяців тому багато хто в світі, якби почув, що ми плануємо саме таку операцію, сказав би, що це нереально і що це перетин нібито найбільш червоних з усіх червоних ліній, які є в Росії. Саме тому, власне, ніхто і не чув про таку нашу підготовку. І тепер реальний успіх наших воїнів говорить саме за себе. Наші активні захисні дії по той бік кордону та нездатність Путіна уберегти його територію від таких наших захисних дій дуже красномовні. Наш активний превентивний захист є найбільш ефективною протидією російському терору і забезпеченням реального ускладнення ситуації для держави-агресора. А по-друге, ми зараз маємо надзвичайно важливу ідеологічну зміну, а саме вся наївна, ілюзорна концепція так званих червоних ліній щодо Росії, яка панувала в оцінках війни деякими нашими партнерами, розсипалась цими днями десь під суджею.
Oh, and that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.